It started with an explosion and the sound of my own heartbeat drowning out the alarms. I thought I had killed him. The lab smelled like burnt metal and ozone when I stumbled toward the broken containment chamber. The emergency lights painted everything in blood red, and through the shattered glass, I saw him, Sergeant Leon Hale, motionless, smoke curling off his skin. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be part of my experiment. Leon? My voice cracked, half choked by fear, half by disbelief. I knelt beside him, pressing my fingers against his neck. Pull steady, too steady. Then his eyes opened, glowing faintly like molten gold. That was the night everything changed. I'm Dr. Evan Rhodes, biochemist, geneticist, and, apparently, the idiot responsible for turning a perfectly human soldier into something else. The project was meant to heal, to enhance the human body's ability to recover from trauma. It wasn't meant to rewire a man's DNA. And yet, here we were. When Leon woke up days later, strapped to a medical bed in my private lab, his voice was calm, but something inside it carried an echo like two people speaking at once. "You saved me," he said, his gaze locked on me, unblinking. "No," I whispered, unable to meet his eyes. "I destroyed you." He smiled faintly. "Then destroy me again, document. Because I'm not leaving you." At first, I thought it was shock speaking or confusion, or some strange neural misfire caused by the serum. But then he followed me everywhere, protecting me from military officers demanding explanations, shielding me from the media's frenzy when news of the failed experiment leaked, and even standing guard outside my apartment at night. He said he could feel when I was anxious, when I couldn't sleep, when my heartbeat raced. The serum had done more than alter his strength or senses. It had linked him to me in ways no science could justify. And I hated how much I didn't want to let him go. The first time I saw him bleed after the transformation, it wasn't red, it shimmered faintly, like liquid light. He brushed it off with a grin. "Guess I'm harder to kill now," he said, leaning against the counter of my lab, shirt unbuttoned, muscles glistening under harsh fluorescent lights. "You shouldn't even be alive," I muttered, trying to focus on the data scrolling across my tablet. "Maybe I'm not," he replied softly. "But if I'm not, then who's the man who can't stop looking at you like you're the only reason he came back?" That was when I realized the real danger wasn't the experiment, it was him. Because no equation, no algorithm, could explain why every time he smiled, the air in the room felt heavier. Why I found myself reaching for him in the dark. Why I dreamed of his heartbeat instead of my own. But love between us was impossible. He was the government's property, now classified, weaponized, observed, and I was the scientist responsible for his creation. Still, there were moments, brief, stolen ones, that belonged only to us. Like the night he snuck into my office after midnight. Rain hammered against the windows, thunder rumbling over the base. He stood there, dripping wet, eyes dark with something between anger and desperation. "Tell me to leave and I will," he said, voice low. "But don't lie to me, Evan. Don't pretend you don't feel this." I couldn't. My silence was the answer he needed. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his hand cupping the side of my face. The warmth of his skin made me shiver. "I shouldn't," I whispered. "I know," he murmured, forehead resting against mine. "But you will." And I did. That night, the world outside ceased to exist. But the morning after, reality returned cold and merciless. Military trucks surrounded my lab before sunrise. They had orders to take Leon back for further observation. I tried to stop them, but one officer pressed a gun to my temple. Leon went willingly, but as he was dragged away, he looked back, eyes burning like the sun, and said one thing that still haunts me. "I'll come back for you, document, no matter what they turn me into." Months passed. I buried myself in work, pretending to move on. But every shadow, every echo of a footstep outside my apartment made me flinch. And when I closed my eyes, I could still feel him, his heartbeat synced with mine. Then one night I heard it, the same deep voice from my dreams. "Miss me?" I turned, and there he was standing by the window, uniform torn, face marked with exhaustion and determination. But his eyes, those molten gold eyes, were still his. "Leon," I breathed. "How did you?" He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. I kept my promise." Before I could speak, he stepped closer, taking my trembling hands into his. "They want to erase me, Evan. They call me a threat. But the only thing I want to protect is you." Something inside me cracked, then years of guilt, fear, and longing collapsing into a single truth. I didn't want to run anymore. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, I looked into his eyes and whispered, "Then let's stop running." He smiled a rare, gentle smile that made my heart forget how to break. And as he pulled me close, the world burned around us. The night we ran, the sky looked like fire. Helicopters circled above, searchlights cutting through the fog as Leon dragged me into the woods behind the base. Every step felt like a countdown to disaster. I could hear soldiers shouting, dogs barking, orders being screamed through radios. Leon's grip on my hand was iron. "Don't stop," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "I promised I'd get you out." I stumbled over a root, gasping. "They'll kill you if they catch us." "They'll have to," he said, glancing back with that half-smile that used to drive me crazy in the lab. "Because I'm not letting go." We moved until dawn across rivers, through mud, over fences. My lungs burned, my glasses cracked, but I never asked him to slow down. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like a scientist running from his mistakes. I felt human, alive. When the sun finally rose, we reached an abandoned farmhouse by the edge of a small Californian town. Leon collapsed beside the barn, breathing hard. I knelt beside him, hands shaking as I checked his pulse. His veins still glowed faintly beneath the skin, the remnants of my experiment pulsing like liquid gold. "Leon," I whispered, "you can't keep this up. The serumit's changing you." He opened his eyes, tired but steady. "Maybe, but every time it tries to take over, I think of you, and it stops." Something inside me broke. I pressed my forehead against his, tears slipping free. "I never meant for this to happen." "I know," he said softly, brushing a tear from my cheek. "You were just trying to save lives. You didn't know one of them would be yours and mine." For weeks we hid. We moved from town to town, cheap motels, quiet diners, always one step ahead of the people hunting us. Leon started wearing sunglasses to hide the faint glow in his eyes, while I forged new IDs and erased traces of our existence. I stopped being Dr. Evan Rhodes. He stopped being Sergeant Hale. We became two ghosts trying to remember how to live. One evening, as we watched the ocean from a cliff, I realized how far we'd come. The Pacific stretched endlessly before us, waves crashing like heartbeats against the rocks. Leon stood behind me, his arms around my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. "You ever think about going back?" he asked. "To what?" I said. "A lab that doesn't exist anymore? A life full of lies." He smiled faintly. "I meant, to being normal." I turned to face him. "Leon, normal died the day I injected you with that serum." He studied me for a long time, his golden eyes reflecting the sunset. "Then maybe it's time we stop chasing what we were and start building what we are." That night, under the soft hum of the sea, we built something real. No guilt, no fear, just two men who'd survived the impossible, holding on to the only truth that mattered: love. But peace never lasts. They found us 2 months later. It was early morning when the black vans appeared at the end of the dirt road. Leon sensed them before I did, his instincts sharper than ever. He grabbed me by the shoulders. "Get to the boat. Now. I'm not leaving you again." He kissed me hard, desperate, final. "Evan, listen to me. They can't take both of us. If they get me, they'll use me. But if you're free, you can finish what we started. You can fix this." Tears blurred my vision. "There's nothing to fix." "Yes, there is," he said, voice trembling for the first time. You deserve a life. You deserve to stop being haunted." Before I could argue, he pushed me toward the path leading to the dock. Gunfire cracked behind me, echoing through the cliffs. I turned once, just once, and saw him standing there, unarmed, facing a squad of soldiers with nothing but defiance in his eyes. Then the world went white. When I woke up, I was drifting on the ocean, the sky gray and endless. The boat rocked gently beneath me, the horizon empty. Leon was gone. For weeks I searched. Coast guards, hospitals, back channels, nothing. It was as if he had vanished into air. I lived in a small coastal town under a new name, working in a quiet clinic, treating small wounds instead of creating new ones. But at night I still felt him. Sometimes in my dreams, sometimes in the silence between heartbeats. Until one evening nearly a year later I heard someone knocking on my door. I froze. The knock came again, softer this time. I opened the door and there he was. No uniform, no weapons, just Leon. His hair longer now, his eyes no longer glowing but the warmth in them unmistakable. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, smiling that crooked smile I'd missed so much. I couldn't speak. My legs gave out and he caught me just like he always had. His arms wrapped around me, steady, real, alive. "They told me you died," I whispered. "Almost did," he said. "Guess I'm too stubborn." He paused, brushing his thumb across my cheek. "I promised I'd come back, didn't I?" I laughed through tears, pressing my forehead against his chest. His heartbeat was steady, strong, and this time, it was his alone. The serum had faded. Whatever he had become, he'd fought his way back to being human. We moved to a small cabin by the sea, where the days passed quietly. He fished. I wrote. Sometimes we just sat on the porch, watching the waves and the gulls, our hands intertwined. The world still thought we were gone, and maybe that was for the best. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Leon turned to me. "You ever regret it?" "Regret what?" "Everything. The experiment. The running. Us." I looked at him for a long moment, then shook my head. If I hadn't made that mistake, I never would have met the man who taught me what it means to be alive. He smiled, leaned in, and kissed Meslo and deep, the kind of kiss that felt like forgiveness. The wind carried the scent of salt and rain. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled. But here on this quiet stretch of the world we were safe. Two broken men who found each other in the wreckage. Two souls who defied everything they were told to be. And as the stars began to bloom above us, Leon whispered the words I'd waited my whole life to hear. "I'm home." I smiled, my fingers tracing the scar along his jaw. "You always were." The waves crashed against the shore, steady as a heartbeat, and for the first time in years, I knew peace. Because real love wasn't something born in a lab or built in equations. It was something that survived the fire, the fear, and the fall. And somehow, against every law of nature and man, we had. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.